It is your Classic Metal Show right here on the ClassicMetalShow.com. And if you listen to this show, you certainly know that music. That was Axel Rudi Pell from the brand new release, Sign of the Times. That one was called Into the Fire. And coming back into the fire with the Classic Metal Show is the guitarist and the leader and the namesake of that. It is Mr. Axel Rudi Pell. Axel, how are you, man?
Thank you, Chris. I'm great. Thank you. Thanks for having me back on the show again.
You know what, Axel? I love having you on the show because you're one of the more dynamic interviews that we ever get, man. You always have so much energy.
Really? But it's not my mother language, so bear with me concerning that mistakes I will do. Okay.
Well, you know what it is you, more than a lot of other bands, you're very passionate about talking about your releases. A lot of guys, they go into
That's right.
And I know you know this. A lot of guys go into interview day and they're just like, oh shit, I got to do 20 interviews today. But you're always so up and so energetic and so ready to talk Axel Rudi Pell music.
That's right, because I'm only doing one interview a day. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, that's right, yeah. Because I love my music, This is the music comes from my heart, I'm still burning in my old age, And I want to talk about this greatest shit I ever heard.
Absolutely. Well, Axel, I've got to say, if even for people that may not be fans of the band, if no matter what they think of Axel Rudi Pell as a project, there's no denying that you guys are one of the most consistent bands working today. The formula doesn't change too much. It sounds really, really good every single time. And literally every 18 months or so, there's another record, man. It's amazing how you've been able to stay so consistent and so creative for such a long time.
Thank you very much for the compliments. Yeah, I'm wondering by myself. So how can I create this great album after great album? So the magic has to be right in the air, and it is still right in my whole life. So I love it.
Sure. Is it? Do you sit around and write like all the time, or do you wait until it's time to put together the next album before you start writing?
No, I won't do that, because I'm really writing every time, As soon as I lock down the door and the record is finished, I'm going back home, pick up the guitar again, maybe after 1 or 2 days, and suddenly a riff comes to my mind and say, "Wow, this is a great idea," and I'm recording that on my cell phone, on the voice recorder on that. So, I'm writing every time. So sometimes it happened actually that I don't have any idea in between 1, 2, 3, or 5 weeks, but I don't care. I know when I pick up the guitar again or suddenly a melody comes to my mind, I record everything, and I'm constantly writing, yeah.
Sure. Do you have, and I ask this to every one of you guitar players because you're all the same, do you have at least 1,000 riffs recorded that you have not used yet?
I have so many riffs I recorded I haven't used, but they're all shit, they sound like crap, so that's the reason why I don't use them, so not every idea I have on the guitar, especially guitar riffs, is good, I'm collecting these little bits and pieces. When I listen back, I say, oh, Jesus Christ, this sounding not too good. What came to my mind as I played that, so, I wrote a lot of riffs, but not all of them are good, actually. So, unfortunately,
right.
Otherwise, I will make a triple album or anything like that.
Right, no question. Well, Axel, the new release is called Sign of the Times. It's an excellent release from you guys. There's some definite changes on this. It has a little bit of a different vibe to it. I would say, musically, it's maybe a little bit more accessible than like Night's Call was. Night's Call was just blazing in your face. This one has a couple of tunes that are not as fast and are definitely more accessible to a listener. Were you trying to do that, or is that just where you guys are at this moment?
It just happened by accident, I don't think about when I'm writing songs. I don't think about how they will turn out in the end and what people feel about when they hear it, I don't give a fucking shit.
Right.
Oh, sorry, can't say that. So, I'm just writing things. And when I listen back and when the song is done, I listen back and I say, is it okay or should I change anything? I say, no, this is great, and then it goes up to the record, yeah.
Sure. And you know, one of the things I noticed, and I had to go back and look at the last releases to check, for some reason with Sign of the Times, all of the songs are longer. There's not one song that's like a 4-minute song. Everything is between 5 and 8 minutes long. Is that a sign that you're just in a more creative, musically creative space where you have more to say with each song?
No, it just happened by accident. You know, I don't look at the time when I'm writing stuff. You know, I said, well, that's okay. You know, I think I can't write songs under 3 minutes because, you know, it's not working for myself. I don't know why, but I can't do that. So apart from the intro, which is of course only 1 minute and 1 minute 40 seconds, that's okay with me. So I can write 2 short songs. I don't know, because I'm more looking at it as an opus, you know. So not a song, it's an opus or something. I don't know.
Sure. Well, Axel, you know, your singer is arguably the busiest guy on this planet. Johnny Gioli is ridiculous with the amount of work and the amount of touring that he does. You know, what is it about him that he's able to do so many projects outside of ARP, but then he always comes back to ARP with such focus and such a cool creative approach?
Yeah, I don't know. You have to talk with him about that. I don't have any clue. But I mean, you know, the only thing I can say, he's one of the top singers in the world. You know, he's perfect for the ARP band. You know, I can't imagine anything better than him, you know, singing for me. So he's a really cool guy. He's a very nice guy. And actually, like you said, in the past couple of years, he did a lot of shows, other projects and stuff. But this will keep his throat alive, you know.
Sure.
His singing, how do you call it, chords or anything, which are in the neck. Yeah, you know, this is great for him, you know, and I love it, you know, so it's cool.
Sure. Now, Axel, listening to the new release, one song really stuck out to me. It's my favorite on the disc, and it is the one song that definitely has a different vibe going to it than pretty much the rest of the album, and that's "Wings of a Storm." It really has kind of a cool 70s-ish sort of a sound, but then all of a sudden you break in with that guitar solo at the end, and it just kind of jumps out at you. You know, talk a little bit about that song, because that is arguably one of the best songs you've ever done.
Oh, thank you very much. That's nice to hear, actually. Okay, so, you know, this song I wrote around this guitar chord called E7 cross 9. That's actually a guitar chord. I think it was found by Jimi Hendrix back in the 60s, you know. I think it's in Purple Haze. Where else can I find it? He used it on a couple of tracks. I loved this chord, especially that chord, you know. Mm-hmm. And I say, wow, this is a cool sound. I played a different sound on that track at the beginning and in between the riffs. And I really loved it, you know. So it's like... you know, the bass is playing the same as the guitar in the beginning and in between. Right. You know, I don't know how it came to my mind. You know, the magic was right in the air, I think. The funny thing about it is when I played the record to my record company a couple of weeks ago, and then they all listened to for the very first time, one guy said, wow, actually, that's a pretty cool modern guitar sound. I say, okay, I stole that sound from Jimi Hendrix back from the 70s. He looked at me, are you sure? I say, of course, I'm sure, because I grew up listening to that kind of music, you know. Yeah, but that's very modern. I said, okay, you're right. That's cool.
Well, I think that guy had to be a lot younger to not recognize that.
That's right. I think he even wasn't born when I released my first solo record, so no problem at all.
Certainly. Now, Axel, one thing that you guys, as Axel Rudi Pell, always do is you capture just immaculate sound. I mean, the records always sound good. This time you worked with Tommy Geiger. Why the change up with him coming in?
You know, normally I work with Charlie Bauerfeind, you know, right. And I already asked him before. I said, hey, Charlie, there's some next record in the can. Would you like to do it again? He said, Axel, I would love to, but unfortunately I can't, because Charlie already was booked for, I think, 4 or 5 months recording and mixing an album for the German band Halloween. You know, a story I can't do, I don't have the time for it. But what about Tommy? I said, well, Tommy is a good idea, because Tommy and Charlie are at some projects are working together, you know, so with Blind Guardian guys and Halloween. I think they worked together for Gotthard, but I'm not quite sure about that. Anyway, so I knew Tommy because he mixed the live album from last year, the 30th anniversary live, and he already mixed the 25th anniversary a couple of years ago. So I knew Tommy was a great mixing guy and a great engineer, you know. So I hired him, and the work was great. You know, he went into the studio, we started recording, and he got a huge, massive drum sound. You say, wow, that's brilliant, you know, so I love it. So it was very easy to work with him. That was cool.
Sure. Now, when you capture a sound like that, does it make it more difficult to reproduce that on the live stage just because, you know, the sound is so gigantic, you know, on the record?
Yeah, that's right. I trust my live engineer, you know. He will get the album for me before we actually started to, and then he say, I want to reproduce that if it's possible in any way. They say, of course, then you have to get 5 more guitar players on stage, and then you can reproduce it. I say, oh, come on, you know. I mean, I'm sorry, that's from smoking. What should I say? Oh, yeah. It's very difficult. There's only one guitar player, and that's me on stage playing. But actually, the keyboard player, Ferdy, is following me, you know. But concerning the drum sound, he always, my live recording engineer, giving his best, you know. And he's a great guy, too. So, yeah, sure. No problem at all.
And if people don't hear that big sound, you'll just blame him, right?
Right, yeah.
Nice. Well, Axel, you know, one of many unique things about Axel Rudi Pell as a band is that you do have 2 Americans in the band, and I've always been curious, how do you create music when you've got, you know, 2 guys in another country? Do you do it all through the internet? Do you send MP3s back and forth and work out ideas, or?
No. You know, the secret behind it, I don't send anything, you know. So, you know, when I'm doing my demos at home by myself, you know, I play, the songs are completely finished without the drums. Of course, I have the beat, you know, 100, blah, 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 whatever. And I play every instrument by myself at home, the rhythm guitars, the bass, the little keyboards, the keyboard melody, the vocal lines, the vocal melody. I write all the lyrics. And when my demos are done, I don't send them out to the other guys, you know. So we start fresh in the studio. Bobby will come over from the States, you know, he's flying in all the time. We're setting up the drum kit in the studio, and then we're starting from scratch. You know, I say, hey, Bobby, listen, this is the first track, this is the riff, and you listen to my demo, say, well, great, man, I know exactly what you want me to play there, you know, and he's starting hitting the drums, hey, that's cool, you know. So that's always like that, you know, nobody is hearing anything before actually we're recording that in the studio. So that's just great. And concerning Johnny, he's the only guy who's not coming. He's not flying over to Germany. He's doing everything in his house, you know. He has a little recording studio there, all the systems and microphone and gear, whatever. And I'm doing that on the internet, explaining just the songs, because we send everything to him by internet. We put everything on the server. He downloaded it. And of course, he has my guiding vocals, you know, all the melody lines with the real lyrics on. He's listening to that, and then we're phoning each other on Skype to say, what do you mean with that, Axel? Explain a little better. So we're running through the whole songs, and then he's singing that. And after he's done, he's sending me MP3 files. I listen back on the next day or whatever. I say, wow, this is cool. Maybe we have to change this and this, but the rest is whatever, you know. So we're working like that, and actually it's pretty good, yeah.
Sure. When you hear it back, especially when you get Bobby, who's, you know, just an amazing drummer, you know, in the studio, does it change? Have you found that you know, his vision or his ability is different than what you envisioned the songs being, or do they come out pretty much the way you envisioned it, you know, before you have everybody come over?
I think it's pretty much the same, but Bobby, of course, Bobby is a drummer. He knows much better than I know but it's better for the song. Actually, all things he's playing is much better than I thought before, you know, because he's an amazing, talented drummer. He's one of the best drummers in the world, you know, and he lives and breathes this kind of music, you know. So we're on the same level concerning these music things, you know. But when I play the riff to him, you know exactly what I want to say with that song or with that riff or whatever. He's coming into the groove and say, you want me to do like this or you want me to play like this? And they say, wow, this is cool. I say, yeah, I thought so too. Yeah. You know, we're working on that, but he's really, really great.
Sure, he definitely is. Well, Axel, the album is called Sign of the Times, and we're certainly in a weird time right now. Is it
Right.
How ironic is it that you put out a release that has messages that kind of fit exactly where we're at right now?
I don't know, because I'm a genius. No, I'm kidding. This happened by accident. I thought about it was last year when I thought about the title for the record, and I say, what can I say with it? And I thought about the whole situation of the planet. We had so many changes in the last 2 or 3 years since the last album. We had this religion wars going on. We had these attacks. We had this street fightings and stuff. We had this whole climatic change of the whole planet.
Right.
You see, and when you look at the cover, you see that's 2 minutes after midnight. We see the skull watch is 2 minutes after. So it's a little bit too late for anything. So maybe it's a good idea to write about some special things. Like the themes I just mentioned. So. Yeah, I did wrote a song about the fucking virus,
Right.
So, because I didn't know about it, of course. Yeah.
Right. Well, Axel, if I know anything about you and about Axel Rudi Pell, the band, it's that you guys are touring musicians, and certainly it has got to be scaring you to death with that they're talking about not having any touring until 2021 at the earliest, no?
Yeah, that's right. Absolutely. I mean, originally we had a tour going on starting in a couple of days, the whole May, and we had to reschedule it to next year, April, but we have another leg going on of the tour, which is now the first part, for October, November this year. I don't know if this can happen or not. Nobody knows so far. I mean, even if the government in Germany will say to give a green light for having shows back, in the venues, even then it's a problem because like you said, I have 2 Americans in the band, and they're not allowed to cross the border or even have to be in 2 weeks quarantine. So, that's not happening at all, so we can't do it then. So we have to wait and see.
Sure. Do you worry that because of everything that's going on, that Sign of the Times will get kind of lost in the mix, and by the time you can actually get out to promote it, it'll be about time to do another record?
No, I don't think so. I think actually the people, they're waiting for us to come up, to come back and playing live. So I think they still know that they haven't seen the Sign of the Times tour because nobody's allowed to at the moment. So I think no, it's not a problem. I think it should work pretty well.
Sure. Now, just and this is just straight curiosity, and you don't even have to answer it if you don't want to, but I'm curious, what does a guy like you who's used to being out and on the road and playing guitar, what do you do to keep busy during the pandemic? It's got to be driving you crazy to be at home.
It drives me crazy just a little bit, to be honest, because, I have so many things to do. I'm giving interview after interview after interview at the moment, telephone interviews, and sometimes I got email requests, email interviews I have to do. There's so many different things. I have to work on taxes. I have to get back to the merch thing, to make everything perfect for the next kind of going out live, So I'm doing so many things at the moment. I'm creating my own fragrance. I'm not kidding. Hopefully we'll be out at the end of the year or maybe the beginning of next year. I'm doing so many different things. So I'm not getting bored at all. What I'm really missing is going out with some friends, going around to a restaurant, eating and drinking stuff. I can't do it at the moment. So, but all the other things are okay for me. Yeah.
Sure, definitely. Well, one thing that's definitely okay for you, Axel, is this new release. It's called Sign of the Times. It is an excellent release from Axel Rudi Pell. And I'll tell you what, Axel, you've done this with me before. Why don't you pick a song from the new record to wrap the interview up with, and maybe tell us a quick story about it?
That's a tough thing because, like I'm saying it all the time, when I pick just one song, the others are crying because they're all my little babies,
Right.
So it's very hard. But probably I pick track number 5, The End of the Line, because we are at the moment, the end of the line, and it's about that, nothing else. So I think it's a very, very steady, up-tempo rock track, which I really like. I don't know why, because, every track is great.
Well, let's play one of those great tracks right now. This is End of the Line. It is Axel Rudi Pell right here on your Classic Metal Show.